We have multiple Leafs updates to go over today as Craig Berube continues to make some very interesting decisions surrounding their lines and one decision that has fans divided. We're going to break that down and discuss what it means going forward ahead of what's going to be a crucial stretch of games as the regular season comes to a close. But before we get into it, a quick reminder, folks, that we are available on Spotify, Apple Music, and everywhere you get your podcasts. So make sure to check out the link in the description for our Spotify. Have a listen there and subscribe to the Spotify. So thank you guys for your continued support as well. But there's a lot to go over today. Obviously, we're going to be talking about specifically some more line changes that Craig Berube has, or in some cases hasn't made, surrounding a few of the players, and one move that still has Leafs fans split. We spoke about it in our stream yesterday, and let's just dive right into it because there is a lot to go over ahead of what's going to be a pretty crucial win against the Panthers tonight. We'll also dive into the standings a little bit here, but it seems, according to David Alter, and the lines remain the same here. There's a few different things to go over, and obviously we'll start with the forward group with Nyes, Matthews, Marner. All the lines remain the same as last game, but this is now the second game in a row where we saw Scott Laughton at the left wing here. Again, we gave up a first-round pick for him. It's a little bit interesting to see them run the same lineup back. I thought Yarncroke was going to come in, and then Laughton maybe would have went on even the third-line wing to see how that would have went. But they're rocking Laughton on the fourth-line wing again, and you also see Wall there at the bottom, which is probably the bigger story, which we'll dive into in a minute here. But the lines remain the same, and the blue line remains still in a blender and changes fairly often, though to start the game, at least, it's the same as last time.
It's the same as last game, and they won last game. And in terms of Scott Laughton, I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I know you gave up a first-round pick, but if the team is winning, that's why you brought in guys like that to make the team better. And they are a better team now than they were before the trade deadline. So I think it's fine in my eyes for now until something isn't working, then change it up. And in terms of what's going on, I mean, the Panthers have a huge game tonight against the Washington Capitals, right? Like Washington's a very hard team to play against, very heavy. So hopefully Washington wins that game, and the Leafs are playing one of the worst teams in the entire league in the Nashville Predators, right? You have to pick up a 2 points here. So lots of playoff implications, not just for the Leafs, but the whole league tonight. There's a lot of crazy matchups tonight. So it's going to be interesting to watch. But yeah, you have to pick up a win here. And the fact that they're not changing anything and they're sticking with, well, honestly, what worked. It's not like they scraped by in a couple of these wins, right? Like I thought it was a very convincing win, even though the score was tight against the New York Rangers. So I like Bobby McMann up there on that second line. The third line is interesting. We'll see how it continues to play, right, and how they deploy it, but we'll see how that goes. And then the defense pairings, they are what they are this morning, but they've been in the blender like during games, right? Like they don't really stay with what they start with the last couple of games. So I'm excited to see what they, throw out tonight, see what they kind of stick with, who plays with who the most amount of time. Because again, I feel like this whole process right now heading into the playoffs is who works best with who, and Berube loves to work in pairs. So in terms of the forwards, of course, but it's going to be interesting there. But we do have a bigger storyline to get to, and I think something that's becoming a real big talking point between Leafs fans.
Obviously, Scott Laughton. Before we get into that, Scott Laughton is coming off of probably his best game as a Leaf. Couple shots on goal, had a high danger scoring chance. He looks more comfortable in the wing. It's what he played in Philadelphia, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But let's dive into what you're talking about. You see it there at the bottom, Joseph Wall. He does get the nod tonight against Nashville, and this was a big question mark heading into the game tonight prior to, of course, it being announced, because we assumed that Joseph Wall was going to get the start, but even on Saturday on the panel, Elliot Friedman was projecting, Anthony Stolarz, and it still brings up the question of Stolarz versus Joseph Wall as it pertains to game one starter. I think it's a question that's going to come down to the wires. We're now less than a month away from the playoffs starting here. So Joseph Wall gets the nod tonight against Nashville, which means you'd have to assume that Anthony Stolarz gets the next game. But at this point, I think things are very fluid with this team. Stolarz is coming off of a great game as well, but Joseph Wall in his last game was dominant. But I think the goaltending tandem has saved 54 of the last 59 shots or something like that. So they've been absolutely rolling right now, and it begs the question who is going to get the start in the playoffs. But as it pertains to tonight's game, it is back to Joseph Wall, and he had some comments which we'll get into in a second. But I want to get your thoughts first on, Joseph Wall. Yeah, that's your guy, so it's I guess you're happy about it.
Surface layer, yeah, like for sure. First of all, because I love Joseph Woll and I believe in him, and he's shown flashes of brilliance over the last couple playoff runs. Honestly, like he's been great. So I love Joseph Woll and I do believe in him. Health was really the biggest thing coming into the season. We knew that, right? But obviously, on paper, it makes sense this move because he's been hot, right? Like that, the performance against the Avs, it makes sense to have him in this game here. But it's the order of games that I think is going to become a storyline here, and again, like a talking point between Leafs fans that I think is very interesting because normally, obviously it's 1-1-1-1. That's kind of what they're doing at this point to a degree, right? The last little while that we've been seeing. And they're still following that this week, right? On paper. But look at the matchups that Wool is getting, right? He got the Avalanche game, whereas, that wouldn't have happened a month ago. That would be Stolar's, or even at the beginning of the season, that would be Stolar's game. Wool would get the Rangers, and then it would probably be Stolar's again tonight. But it's not. It's reversed now. So it looks like they're almost, I wouldn't say they picked the starter yet. I wouldn't go that far, but it almost looks like they're favoriting Joseph Woll right now, and it's because he's playing better. It's just the fact of the matter. Right now, he is playing better. So I think it's going to be really interesting down the stretch to see if, Stolarz can bring his game up. And again, this is not a problem. This is a good thing for the Leafs, right? Whoever's hotter, the better goalie, will be your starter come playoff time. And that's a good problem because some teams only have one goalie they can rely on, right? So it's not a bad thing for the Leafs, but again, it's going to be super interesting heading into the playoffs down the stretch here, the last, 12, 10 games here to see who gets the majority of the starts, who they're starting against, and who's playing better. Because it doesn't matter what you did at the beginning of the season. What matters is right now, and whoever's playing better is going to be your playoff starter.
Yeah, we saw Joseph Woll play back-to-back earlier this week, so he did get those. But then, of course, it was not back-to-back nights, but back-to-back games. So they have been leaning a little bit that way. And Joseph Woll came out and spoke about it, getting his consecutive starts since early February. It's nice to play a lot. It's easier to get in that rhythm and that groove, and you're not thinking about as much because you're in the net. And when you're playing, you're not really thinking. Obviously, Joseph Woll has played a lot more than Anthony Stolarz this season because of the injuries Stolarz was facing, and now he's getting in a lot more games than Stolarz is now. I think Joseph Woll and Craig Berube probably wants Joseph Woll to get in a bit more of a rhythm, but the problem is whoever is going to be in more of a rhythm come April is going to be who starts on opening, the playoff opener, and that's going to be the big question. Last year, obviously, we knew it was Ilya Samsonov, and then, of course, we had a little bit of Joseph Woll, and then back to Samsonov in Game 7, so it was a interesting one last year. And you see this year, Joseph Woll felt the Leafs show why they're a special team on Wednesday. Austin Matthews called it a gritty win, and the mindset now is to build their confidence, momentum. It's a big thing in this league. You have to win tonight, and the reason that it matters a lot here, you look at the standings, Florida and Toronto aren't just, they are virtually tied, but they are exactly tied with points, win percentage. The record is identical. You have Tampa Bay one game behind, but they also have a game in hand. So if Tampa Bay wins, then they're also virtually tied as well with a couple regulation losses there. So got a couple extra points. But regardless, still behind the Leafs, of course. But it is going to be a very interesting game. And we got to be cheering for, I believe it's at 5 p.m. Eastern. We had to be cheering for the Washington Capitals if you're paying attention to the out-of-town scoreboard here, because there is a world where we'll know the outcome of the Panthers game by the start of, or around the start of the Leafs game. They need to take care of business. And is it too early to scoreboard watch? I don't know, but I'm really hoping that the Florida Panthers, the Leafs at this point, they took back control. They need to win the Atlantic.
Yeah, and it's not too early to scoreboard watch because they have identical records. So every little thing that both teams do are on the radar of the other team. I have to believe it. And certainly the fan bases too, because, if the Leafs, lose tonight, let's say, and the Panthers win, that is significant because now you're 2 points back again. So obviously, I don't think it's too early to scoreboard watch. You need to finish first. We've gone over it so many times. Like, give yourself the best shot here. Try and finish first. And I think a playoff matchup with the Sens would be absolutely electric. And they're also a team that doesn't have too much playoff experience. So that could work in the favor of the Leafs, but we've seen that before, not necessarily go their way. So it's going to be interesting down the stretch. I think you have to keep tabs on the Florida Panthers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, all these teams, even the Ottawa Senators, because there is a world where they end up making it into a divisional spot. They do have enough time and enough games left. It could end up happening. It's not very likely, but that is something too. So it's going to be interesting around the league. And there's a lot of crazy matchups tonight in particular, as it pertains to the playoffs and, the wild card positioning. So it's going to be crazy, and the Leafs have to pick up a win here. This is a scheduled win. If there's ever a scheduled win against Nashville, you got to win this game.
Yeah, and then you have a bit of a rougher schedule to end the season. You do also play Florida a couple times, so gonna try to get some advantages when it comes to being up on points. So those games matter a little bit less, even though you want them to win those games. Let us wrap it up. Let us know down below a couple other things. It's gonna be interesting to see how the Leafs handle the third line. Something to watch for tonight's game, like you mentioned, because it hasn't been great, and on paper it doesn't look fantastic. Also, shout out to Brandon Carlo. It's been fantastic since joining the Toronto Maple Leafs. But a huge game tonight. We're gonna keep you up to date, and we'll be live following the game. So make sure to stay tuned for that. See you guys later.